trying to let you finish your thoughts.
No, don't. I hate the sound of my own voice today. It has been a rough week.
But you're making good points, though.
Am I? Am I?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Hello and welcome to another zany episode of Nerdy West Coast Swing, the podcast with pixels where the anchors are out of this world and the points don't matter. We are here to help train your eye so you can learn faster and dance better. I'm Cassie Winter.
I'm Alicia Marshall. If you're wondering who are we to be analyzing these pros, Cass and I both have extensive training and experience in both partner and solo dancing. Cass has about 25 years, I have about 27. So today we are taking a look at a video of Virginie, Grondin, and Ben Morris from D-Town Swing recently. And we're going to be talking a little bit about just kind of One Follows takeover a little bit.
Yeah, in a good way. We'll throw the link up in the card above so you can go and watch the dance before you watch us analyze it. Some preamble. Basically, I just wanted to highlight how a follow can change the dynamics of what's going on, but still within the context of what's going on, but they just shift it. It's like a 1 or 2 degree turn, and then how the leader can go along with it. Like say yes and instead of being like, no, I wanted it the other way. That's what we're gonna be talking about and highlighting some of the technique and the connection that like allows that to happen. To the screen share. Doodle-doodle-doo. Oh, also shout out to everyone I saw live and in person at Swingtacular recently who are fans of the show. It always makes my day to meet y'all in the wild. And also got to see one of our t-shirts in the wild for the first time. Apparently it's high quality. So that makes me extra excited. So yay. Okay, now for real to the screen share. So as soon as the music comes on, Virginie starts grooving to it. And the way Ben is reacting to it, just first of all, hilarious. 10 out of 10. But he is waiting and watching to a comedic extent. He's making a comedic choice. I wouldn't necessarily do what Ben's doing to your Jack and Jill Spotlight follow. I'm like novice, maybe all-star, but like novice to advanced, no.
Yeah.
That's just awkward.
Yeah.
The amount of confidence Virginie has, I'm like jealous because she's rocking it. But I would feel so awkward. Like 8-10 counts in, I'd be like, are you gonna do something?
Right.
Hey, you're just gonna leave me hanging? Hey.
That's where you have to be in that mindset of, okay, well, if you're not going to do something,
Yeah. I don't know. Just as a follow, it's totally cool to give yourself permission to contribute more and sooner. If your leader isn't. So go for it. The way Ben just shimmies right here, he's living his best life.
He really is. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't blame him in any way.
Living his best life being a pole.
The sarcastic thank you. Yes, that was I led all of that, every single thing with the power of my mind.
I was going to talk a little bit about what she's doing as they're kind of going through this, because she's not just like walking around him and like having a hand on him. Like she's actually communicating some things as she's doing that. This initial walk around, she doesn't do too much because she's literally just walking right around him. But once she gets kind of back around and they kind of start doing things right here with the arms, then she's giving him some more information. So she's putting a little bit of pressure into the hands as she's sliding them down his arms. And then as she's kind of leading herself through this, he is resisting so that she can use him. But she's kind of also giving him the information based on like just where she's at and what direction she's going to be moving in, just so that he can take over and add on if he wants to. But
she's giving him like every opportunity. It's like, you can join me in the pool anytime.
Yeah.
Anytime, man. Anytime. He's like, I like the view.
And especially right here, you can kind of see when she walks around him and has her arm wrapped around him, you can really see where she's putting some pressure into that forearm.
Mhm. Yeah, and that's an important detail. It's not just the hand or just the fingertips because that could verge on creepy and uncomfortable. Using the whole forearm for more connection. Or ticklish. That is also something to be wary of.
That would be a very interesting time to find that out about somebody that you have never dated before.
Yeah. Yeah. Silly intro aside. Now we're gonna get into some of the more complex instances of Virginie contributing something or changing something, and then Ben jumping in the pool this time instead of leaving her hanging. This is a really simple example where Virginie is wanting to accent something in the music, over rotates herself and really strikes a pose, accenting the music. And then instead of just wanting to lead her back down the slot in the opposite direction, Ben leaves her there and moves past her down the slot. Not only is this a fun variation, but it's also more comfortable because, like, as a follow, getting led back down the slot from this point can feel really awkward because you're closing your left side back towards your leader and it tends to get led kind of aggressively in an acceleration because the way we watch the handhold, it's going from this side of the slot to this side of the slot. So it's traveling through space laterally across the slot. And the kind of mechanical reaction to do that is to do the equal and opposite. So it then goes back across the slot on like count one. If you're not giving the follow the right kind of placement in space with the hand, it can accelerate really easily because all you have to do is switch back to the other side of the slot and the follow will be coming towards you. But it's really common for leaders to also draw the hand down the slot from that place. And as a follow, we're already like at full extension. We need that to be taken into account.
As a follow, you can also just be a little bit more aware and protect yourself for that happening by not getting quite as extended if you
Mhm.
are concerned about it. You can still be over rotated in that way. It's just more about keeping the elbow a little bit closer to you as you do that.
So this is a really fun combination where Ben, I think at this point, is expecting to lead kind of like a passing tuck kind of a situation. But because Virginie puts her left hand on his left rib cage, it offers a new connection point. Well, obviously, it offers a new connection point. That's a redundant thing to say. Obviously, Virginie is changing the plan slightly. So she's still doing a pass. She's still going to be going past his front because he's facing that direction, which is what he was intending, but she's changing it slightly. And then when she finishes passing him, she puts her right hand on his back, which is then something he can use to turn himself and do his own duck under. She added some complexity to what the plan was, and he simply used it instead of being confused. Was like, but that wasn't a passing tuck.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, when you're real tired, something that simple change can just ruin one's brain matter. Been there. But we want to get to a place where we can take something new and use it. And based on how Virginie is connecting with his back, he could have used this to accelerate his own rotation if he chose to. But he ended up doing a more
Yeah.
measured rotation to his left. But he had the option to because she was offering that kind of connection for him.
You can see that she's really offering some kind of compression um, into his kind of rib cage and back area because you can kind of see uh, when she slides away, his shirt is pulling with her hand. So there's that pressure obviously already there. And then
Mm-hmm.
you kind of see it as it's pulling away.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just kind of going with the flow, like that position that they're in where they're kind of side to side. And she gets that like tension on his back. That's just kind of the natural uh, way to release that
Mm-hmm.
tension. So he's just kind of going with it.
And that's one of those things that you can either practice and train yourself as a leader to understand that's an opportunity to do something like that, or you can cross train in both roles. And as a leader, you'll be like, wait, This is kind of a follow moment right now. I can do a follow thing.
Yeah.
And it might be easier to wire your brain in that way. Just different options for learning how to come up with these kinds of things on the fly. Oh, this one is so fun. So once again, Ben is leading a pass, but instead of continuing to project down the slot, Virginie crosses the slot as if she's a leader, as like, I'm gonna post over here now. And then once again, he uses that to kind of pass by her instead.
This would be something that's communicated kind of in the hand because you can see that she's leaning away initially as she's kind of checking backwards before she comes forward. And so she's kind of establishing some tension there and she's drawing herself forward. And then it would just kind of release, and or she could kind of press a little bit into the hand, um, so that he could feel that there's something different happening.
Mm-hmm. And then it looks like as he's stepping forward onto his left foot here, he's actually using that handhold to start rotating himself to his left,
Yeah.
which is something that she would in turn feel and then realize, okay, I need to continue offering connection here so that he can use it. And it would be tension, right? I'm not off my rocker.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. No. Just from a tall follows perspective, I'm like, this is genius. Sometimes you're just tired of sprinting back and forth down the slot and just being like, no, we're going to do something different. So now we've gone to the second dance. And I just love, as soon as the song comes on, Virginie once again takes over and has her ideas. So she has her own joke this time. She's like, we're doing salsa.
Uh-huh.
Like, this is so strategically genius because she was genuinely dancing and wanting Ben to jump in the pool with her at the beginning of the first song. And then it became a joke because he just
Yeah.
stayed on the side of the pool and let her
Good.
do her thing. But this time she's like, okay, if that's the vibe, we're making it a joke. I'll lean into it
Yeah.
and escalate it. And it's just genius. I love it so much. So here we have Ben leading a variation on an open whip. And he's leaving the lead pretty open for interpretation on purpose. And like one thing he could do is like wrap his left arm around her back, placing his left hand on her left rib cage, and they could continue kind of rotating around as one piece. But because he's not using his left arm to connect, it's giving her a lot more opportunity to interpret what's going on. So she ends up kind of accelerating the direction of rotation that they're already in to do this rotation right here. And because he left the connection more open and is paying really close attention to her, he's able to get that right hand up and over and around her head in a comfortable way. And he's using his left hand to stabilize that too, another point of connection. And then he moves back to counterbalance her at the end. I'm trying to think from a leader's perspective, because if you think of leading your basics, there's a spectrum of how you can lead your basics from like wide open to interpretation all the way to like there is no interpretation. This is a side pass, and thou shalt do a side pass, and nothing but a side pass. Like there's a spectrum of how ambiguous or not ambiguous you can be with your leading, but that also goes for more complex patterns. You can leave room for interpretation from your follow. And so what we've been seeing is Ben leaving a lot of room for interpretation because he knows Virginie will take that opportunity and run with it and come up with some really cool stuff. And so like if you're a leader in a competition and you have a follow that has a lot of ideas, instead of trying to fight that, let that happen and see what you can do with it. I think we've all seen those dances where the two dancers are like butting heads and neither of them will let the other have their ideas. And that isn't necessarily from a place of malice or bad intention. It's just from a lack of being able to really be in the present moment and allow for what your preconceived notion of what the dance is going to be to change.
And sometimes it's a like clash of techniques.
Mm-hmm.
Because certain techniques don't work well together. And especially like for follows, if for some reason you're not like sitting back into things, you would be kind of falling forward. And so that kind of changes things quite a bit. Um,
Mm-hmm.
because you were talking about leaving kind of room for interpretation in more complex patterns. Not only can you work with ideas that you're getting, but like shaping too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because sometimes follows can technically be following what you're leading, but do it in a more unique shaping than is, the norm. So sometimes you can take that as well and create something different with it instead of them having a bunch of ideas. And you can have that same like thought of working with shaping if you um, have, follow that you are struggling with, but they are giving something shaping wise.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you can kind of try and go with the flow, basically.
Mm-hmm. So, one of the things that can mean the difference between being able to, in a connected way, go with the flow and not is whether or not you as an individual can communicate where your weight is through the connection.
Yeah.
So, if we take this example specifically, so Virginie is planting, helps if I hit the correct arrow button, plants her left foot, grounds onto it in order to rotate on it and to lift her free leg. She's communicating where her weight is in space through the handhold. It's not,
Usually, also, it would be through the form on the back of your feet.
yeah, yeah,
Interrupt you.
yeah. Applying some pressure there, but not so much that it would be uncomfortable because that's a delicate spot of the body. But it's the follows that kind of like disappear and become a ghost, or leaders too, when they're doing their own styling. And they stop contributing any information to the connection, compression, tension, weight. It's when they disappear that, like, and as a partner, you have to depend solely on visual information. And while you can get to a level where you can do a lot with visual information, you
Yeah.
still end up making assumptions. Because the interesting thing about ghosting the weight might mean that mechanically you're achieving your balance or your grounding or you're traveling through space in a way that is biomechanically too much work
Yeah.
and visually might be like, you got your weight on your right foot, but no, it's a lie. It's all, the cake is a lie. So as a partner, you go to operate under the assumption of where someone's weight is, but it might, through technique shenanigans, be in a nonsensical place. Did that make sense, Alicia?
Yes.
So the long story short, the technique to learn to move forward in this space is how to commute, how to correctly transfer and settle or move through your weight transfers in a way that makes sense for yourself and therefore will automatically connect to your partner when you're
Yeah.
using the connection correctly. Like, I remember when I first got the feedback that like my partners could feel the floor, like my feet on the floor through the connection. And I'm like, sweet, I know that's a good thing. Because when I'm dancing with another person and I can feel that through the connection with them, I don't know why my voice is cracking. Um, it feels amazing. But like, it was something that was difficult to understand. Like, how am I achieving that? How is the other person achieving that?
Right.
And understanding the mechanics to achieve that can like jump your level of dancing up so fast.
Yeah.
I highly recommend we should maybe do a whole episode on that.
Yeah.
We might have already. because aforementioned, what is time?
Yeah.
Also, I'm talking too much. Please talk more.
I'm trying to let you finish your thoughts.
No, don't. I hate the sound of my own voice today. It has been a rough week.
But you're making good points, though.
Am I? Am
Yeah.
I? Okay, cool. And so the imposter syndrome is real. Oh, I love this one. So this tends to be a pretty classic Ben Morris pattern where
Yeah.
he'll lead kind of like a free. There it goes again. I
You need some water?
don't think that would help. I'm just gonna lean into it. I'll be like Phoebe Buffet in that one episode where she's like, "Oh my god, my voice is so sexy now," and then she
She's
gets better, and then she desperately tries to get sick again. Okay, so classic Ben Morris pattern that usually ends in some sort of ride.
Mhm.
But what Virginie does is she still kind of like obeys the original instruction, which is like free
Yeah.
turn that travels a bit.
Yeah.
But she chooses not to accelerate it and she accents it in the middle with some styling. But because she's still following the kind of original idea, Ben isn't completely up a creek without a paddle.
Right. Yeah.
And
She's still doing enough so that like he isn't totally thrown off. Like she's still technically ending up in the position that he was wanting originally.
Mhm,
She just gets to it in a slightly different manner than he was thinking was going to happen. And she's doing it in the same like timing also. So
mhm,
that's like an important because she's not um like accelerating necessarily, but she's ending up in the spot that he was wanting at the time he was wanting it. It's just a little bit different because she is delaying the last rotation and doing it all at once instead of like actually spinning through it.
mhm.
It's just kind of swapping weight.
So he still has the ability to catch her hip with his right hand, like his original plan, but he has enough information to know that like a ride's not going to happen. So he has enough time to change his plan. He ends up doing this really fun slide and using the connection that she is providing to make that happen. He kind of rides off of her finishing this last quarter rotation to her left
Yeah.
and uses it to slide himself past her.
Mhm.
I wanted to be like, "Look, Ma, no hands," but there is a hand. Ugh. Alright, so this pattern starts out as them having literally run out of room on
Yeah.
the small floor, so they do have to do a bit of like, "Okay, we need to go the other direction now."
Yep.
And Virginie is basically tethering, around his upper back,
Mhm.
and then instead of posting it or letting or indicating for her hand to draw down, his left arm to go hand to hand, he kind of follows her
Yeah.
and uses that connection point to create something new.
Mhm. Yeah, because basically what's happening is that as she goes from like kind of behind him to then being in front of him, she is creating a almost it's compression, but it's kind of a pulling compression. It's not
Mhm.
like pulling, but it's lightly because she's in front of him. It's like you're pulling along, like pulling something along with you is kind
Yeah.
of
From the like, she has suddenly kind of taken the leader's role and is
Mhm.
leaving and is doing a more open-ended lead. She's
Yeah.
like, "I want you to come with me, but I'm not gonna literally physically make you come with me. You got
Yeah.
options." And then this transition right here is really cool. So there's still that pressure on his upper back, and he decides to stop progressing as a partnership, and he wants her to get to the end of the rope. So when he transitions to his right wrist inside of her elbow right here, you can see he's applying a little bit more tension to the connection because she isn't able to continue her glide right here. she ends up kind of not stalling out, but her center stops progressing down the slot and it stops over top of her right foot. And then we have this kind of equal and opposite situation where from there, by lifting the hand upward, it makes her want to move towards the hand. And that's how he is able to pass her. But without that little bit of extra tension right here, that's essentially creating a post out of an ongoing pattern. This transition wouldn't have been as smooth. And I really appreciate how she waits to release the hand from his upper back. Because always like the more points of connection, the better most of the time. And it's really common when a new point of connection is offered, regardless of what role you're in, to abandon the one you're at and be like, ooh, shiny.
Yeah.
Focus solely on the new one. But allowing yourself to have a moment where both are still there can actually stabilize things and make it easier to do the transition.
Yeah.
Like if this weren't Virginie, and this were a lower level follow, if it were a follow who were to suddenly release that tension from his back, she probably would have accelerated herself into a rotation to her right that Ben then would have followed through with and made it look like it was on purpose. But just by nature of like releasing that pressure, suddenly the pressure on the elbow as a follow would be greater because there wouldn't be something countering it in any way, shape, or form. And it would have changed the nature of the lead. So again, that's a follow's prerogative, but it's something to be aware of. Because if that's the choice you always make, you might be missing opportunities for different results out of certain situations. That was a dizzying transition. Okay.
I know.
We are topic switching. We are topic switching. Okay. If you study film editing. So I'm going to get to right here. So our eyes are probably on one of these two dancers. And more likely, because of the accelerated thing that just happened, our eyes are going to be around here. And then to suddenly jump to where they're over here, that's really jarring.
That is.
You want to, like, if you're going to change camera angles, you want to be able to more or less have the eye in the same place. This is one of the things of good editing. The next time you're watching a movie or a more fancy TV show, pay attention to like when the shots transition, your eye is probably more or less staying in the same place. And that's how they'll show you things that subliminally they're like, we want you to notice the pen on the desk right now. And what they'll do is have one shot looking at the main character, yada, yada, yada. You'll be looking into their eyes or their silly face, and then it'll switch shots, and your eye will have been focusing on the same point on the screen, and there will be a pen there.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, the pen means something. That's how they're doing it.
Yeah.
And then there's also the thing where, like, you don't want to break the 180-degree rule. Jesus, do I remember how to explain this? I feel so old. So if all of your stuff is happening over here and your camera is right here, pointing at all the stuff. So we have character A is over here, character B over here. So on the image, you've got character A over here, character B over here, right? That's what's going on. But if you were to suddenly, out of nowhere, just transition 180 degrees and have your camera facing this way, suddenly you have B on the left, A on the right. That is breaking the 180-degree rule. It is very jarring. And that's why most of the time, like sometimes people will do that on purpose to purposely unsettle the audience. Like that's a way, like it's a rule that you could break on purpose for a certain, but we don't want that in West Coast. We don't want to be unsettling our audience. So that's why if you want to like get from here to here, you have to have some in-betweens to transition to those 2 points. So you have learned 2 things today: where your eye is in the frame and how that transitions from shot to shot is important. And
Mhm.
also the 180-degree rule. And so many multi-camera West Coast swing filming, editing situations break both of those rules all the time. And it
Yeah. Yeah.
hurts.
Yeah. It's always very, very jarring.
Make it stop. And then the other thing that happens is when like the camera person travels through space with the couple and it destroys the acceleration because we're going with them,
Yeah.
right? Like you want to be able as an audience member for dancing to be able to see that sudden change in speed and traveling through space. And without you being stationary, that doesn't happen. Like if you
Yeah.
go counter to them, if you're both going in different directions, suddenly the effect is greater,
Yeah.
which could be fun. But like going with them, that's just sad. Okay.
It
I have
defeats the purpose.
was not expecting to give a mini film and editing lesson today, but we had the time and I was salty. So
Yeah.
let us know if you have any questions. Again, it was lovely to see everyone live and in person. And especially, I didn't get to learn your name, sir, but whoever you were in line for checkout with me on Sunday, that was one of the highlights of my weekend. That was hilarious. The way the way you asked me, you're like, do you have a YouTube channel? And I was like, oh yeah, I do.
Think about that sometimes.
When I go about my day-to-day life, I'm like, I'm just a loser. I'm just here to have fun. And then some people are like, but you're not a loser. And it just alarms me every time. I don't have problems. Once again, I'm gonna stop talking because I hate the sound of my own voice.
Well, most of what you've said tonight has been very informative.
Good. I really
Which is
appreciate
why I was letting you talk. I wasn't just like not adding anything. It just felt like you were doing a good job. So
Thank you. I really appreciate the validation because the angry voice inside is like, people don't want to hear you anymore, Cass. Shut up.
I mean, if they didn't, they wouldn't be here watching. So
My angry voice disagrees with you. The logical voice agrees and understands. But the one that needs therapy is all like, no. And when I say needs therapy, I mean needs more therapy.
yeah,
There's
right.
been a lot of therapy. There has been so much therapy, which is part of the self-awareness problem.
Yeah.
Just contributes to it. One might say I am too aware.
That yeah, I'm pretty sure that's a neurodivergent
Yeah.
thing a
Yeah.
lot of the time.
I have a
Um,
lot of the tism. Okay. Buy a t-shirt. Leave comments. Suggest videos for us to analyze. And we will be back at some point in the future, and hopefully less life will have happened between now and
yeah.
then. I don't know who I am anymore. Like seriously, it's been so long since we've done this. I'm like, all right.
I know.
Hmm.
I feel like we really didn't do it that long ago, but like,
Too
I
much
think
life has happened
so
since
much
then.
happened. I know. But I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Seriously?
I think so, yeah.
Too much life has happened, both on the personal scale and on like the immediate family friends scale, and on
Yeah.
the like my coaching clients scale, and then on the world scale. Too much.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah. Yeah.
Ah.
Go ahead.
Oh no. I'm just rambling because I've forgotten how to do this. So you
Okay. I was gonna say.
did you hear that?
No.
Sounded like someone was being stabbed outside.
No.
There are too many noises today.